Hi, welcome back to English 111 Online. All we have to work on this week is finishing up our core project 4 research essay that you've been working on all along. So last week you had to turn in your outline for this. So it should be pretty easy to just go from that outline to your rough draft and then polish up your rough draft so that it's the very best effort that you could make on that, and then submit it on the Turnitin link that is available for this week. Okay, so view the video lecture, review the document on the introduction in proper MLA format for Works Cited page, just to make sure you have your in-text citations and Works Cited page correct. Review your outline to make sure that your rough draft ended up with, or your final draft ended up with all the information that was required in the outline that you did. You can submit your rough draft to Smart Thinking or come to campus to the English Studio if you want to get some feedback on your essay. It is not required this time, but I strongly suggest that you get somebody to look over it and give you some feedback on that so that you can make your best effort on this. Polish your essay up and submit the final document on the Turnitin link here for this week. It needs to be in, of course, before midnight on Sunday night the 21st. There are a few more inquisitives that are due by the 21st, so you can go ahead and work on those and finish those up as well. I want to talk to you about your rough draft and your final copy. First of all, there's a little label here on the page for this week. It is research-based. It's to be written in academic, professional style or tone. Now, we talked about tone the first week of class, but it's been a while since then. So I just want to remind you of a couple of things. In an academic tone, you do not use first or second person. So anywhere you have I, me, my, mine, myself, we, us, our, ours, ourselves, take those out and put it into third person for the academic tone. Also, please do not use these announcements that sometimes creep into our rough drafts. I plan to discuss, I will talk about, in this paper will, this essay is about. Anything like that, let those jump out at you and get rid of those and just report the information that you have. And also, anything that is, I feel, I believe, in my opinion, or I think, get those out because they're first person. But also because they weaken your argument. You're trying to persuade people that these solutions to this problem are the way to go to help solve this global problem that we have. So any of those I feel, I believe, in my opinion, I think things weaken it. Just say it. This is what should be done. We must, or this is what must be done. And then you're going to back that up, of course, with your evidence that you have brought in from your research. So this must be done. It is already being done in Kenya, and this is the result of what those people are doing, that sort of thing, to fully convince people as they read your essay. And then, of course, the second person too, you, yourself. It's really easy to slip into that second person sometimes, so get rid of all of those too. Keep it third person, and that achieves that academic tone. And it also establishes the ethos of your reader, or establishes your ethos to your reader, so that as your reader goes through, the good, strong academic tone of it helps the reader believe what you're saying. So it builds that I am a person who has authority to speak on this, and I am telling you what needs to be done here. So don't slip into any of that. When you get to your concluding paragraph, and I had suggested in your concluding paragraph that you make some suggestions for what everyday people can do from their home, refer to it that way as people, individuals, and keep it third person. Don't go into that you need to do this, and don't let those we slip in there either. Keep it academic tone. In order to help you with your MLA format, and I think most of you in your rhetorical analysis got that MLA format fine, but some of you did not. You may want to go back and look at my comments on your rhetorical analysis and see what I said about basic MLA format. I have these documents on here again. Basic MLA format, 1-inch margins, which is when you open a Google Doc and start typing, it automatically defaults to 1-inch margins, so you don't have to worry about that. But it defaults to Arial. See, it's Arial up here. You want to put it in Times New Roman. It automatically defaults to 11. You want to put it in 12-point font. Double line spacing. In over here, whereas the little up and down arrow does your line spacing, I think the default is like 1.15, but you want it in double line spacing. You want your title centered, as well as your works cited title should be centered on that page too. And you indent the first sentence of each new paragraph. Got the information here for where your heading goes, what's in your heading. Your header, you're going to insert a page number and not a header, and then you're going to add your last name. So if you need to go back and review this, I'm not going to go through all of that with you, but if you're just going to the default settings, you're not in MLA format, and you will get points deducted for that. As far as your citations for all this research you've done, works cited is a two-part process. You mention it in your text, and you also mention it on the works cited page. So that what the text does is sort of shorthand to refer you back to the works cited page. Now, I've been through this with you before, but again, I just want to review it with you. So if you mention the source in your sentence, you do not have to have any kind of parenthetical or in-text citation. If you do not mention the source in your sentence, then you need to put your your parenthetical citation at the end. And what goes in the parentheses and what needs to go in the sentence is the author's name, if you have it. If you don't have an author, then you need to mention the article name of where you got your information. So it's whatever is sticking out in your hanging indent on the works cited page that you need to mention as your in-text citation. There's information here about using direct quoting, how to do the quotation if you use words directly from something. And you should not be quoting a lot of information. Summarize it, paraphrase it, put it in your own words. You still have to cite it, but you do not have to use the quotation marks. If you're doing a direct quote, you do use the quotation marks. And remember too that when you use quotation marks, remember that quo per punct. So you've got your end quotation mark, your parentheses with your in-text citation, and then your period at the end of that. And always remember to ICE. Introduce with an attributive tag or a signal phrase. Some of you may look back at your previous work and see that I have put on there, this needs a signal phrase, this needs something attributing the information that you're using to the source. The quotation marks by itself are not enough. You've got to put according to or as cited by. You've got to give some information. That's what this introduced is. And then you cite it, and it needs to match. Your citation, in-text citation, needs to match whatever is hanging out on the hanging indent on the works cited page. And then you need to explain it. Don't ever end with a quotation or a paraphrase of information. End with your commentary on that. And keep in mind, too, we're trying to convince. We're trying to persuade. So use good persuasive language on that. The other thing that we have that I recommend you going back to, this was on last week's tab, was the sample introduction, and the outline and the works cited page. And the reason I want you to look at this again is because, again, it's going to help you with your in-text citation and your works cited. So notice this document is in basic MLA format. See, I have changed it from the Arial 11 point to Times New Roman 12 point. I have put it in my line spacing is double line space now. I have added my page number here and added my last name in front of it so that it automatically numbers as I go. So all of this is basic MLA format. And when you get to the end of your heading, then you here's your title centered, and on the very next line you begin your first paragraph. And notice that it is indented. So I just wanted to show you that. But also, I went over this last week, but I just want to show you this again. When you're quoting material, here's my attributive tag that I was talking about right here. This is when you introduce it. This is your signal phrase. So I have, according to the United Nations Sustainable Global Goals web page, and then I have my quotation. Globally, and see I've got quotation marks at the beginning, globally 750 million women and girls were married before the age of 18, and at least 200 million women and girls in 30 countries have undergone FGM. And I added the quotation, the material that I quoted, did not say what FGM was. I figured readers need to know what that is. And so I put it in brackets. Anything you add to quoted material, you put it in brackets. So female genital mutilation, end quote. Now, I said, according to the United Nations, I don't have anything on my works cited page that starts with the United Nations. So I need an in-text citation here in parentheses. So I don't have an author for this. I have a title of that page. So here's the parentheses, and we know that titles are in quotation marks, so I did put it in quotation marks. Goal 5, achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls, quotation marks, end parentheses, and then my period. Here's the quo, pair, punk that I was talking about earlier. So you need an attributive tag, and you need a correct in-text citation. This is something that you should know by now, but if you don't, now's the time to learn it. Now's the time to be able to do this, because this is you're going to have to do this for your final exam also. So let's brush up on it. Let's get it right this time. It's not something that's going to come naturally to you, so work on it. Make that part of your work for this week, shaping your rough draft up into your best copy. So you can see all of this. Now this started in my parentheses here, goal 5, And so what that should match is on the Works Cited page. If you scroll down and look at the Works Cited page, there it is, the second entry on my Works Cited page, because Works Cited is always in alphabetical order, Goal 5. So somebody who wants to actually see that and go to that, perhaps, they can find it. So Goal 5 is what you want in your parentheses. Now, you don't have to type out that whole title every time. You could just put something that helps your reader find it. So I could put just Goal 5 there. Or I could put gender there. Or I could put spotlight. Or the sustainable. Or UN. Or women. Whatever matches what is hanging out on your hanging indent. And this is why we do hanging indent. So when you did your annotated Works Cited page, you had the hanging indent, and then you had your 2 paragraphs added. If you want to just take what you did for your annotated Works Cited, unless you ended up not using something in your essay, you don't want to put anything on the Works Cited page that you didn't use in your essay. And you don't, and if you added anything else, of course, it needs to go here on the Works Cited page. But you do not have to have those paragraphs on this. But if you do have the annotation on here with the paragraphs, that is fine. Also, if your annotated Works Cited page ended up being the actual citations that you used in your, or the research that you used in your essay, then feel free to go ahead and you can copy and paste it onto this Works Cited page. It'll be to keep from having to do it all again. It's fine, okay, but it doesn't have to have the annotation like this. Okay, so those 2 documents that are on the page, on the Moodle page, are very helpful for you to work on that MLA citation. And you should be getting this correct by now, because you've done it before, and we're doing it now, and you'll have to do it next week for the final exam. Also, you may want to go back and look at the outline that you created, look at the instructional outline, make sure that everything that was on here is the way you have it in your essay. Your introduction, your background paragraph, your body paragraph, the opposing side, and your response to the opposing side, and your conclusion. And then here at the end of the conclusion, call to take some kind of action, maybe a career that someone could do that will help with solving this global problem, a personal investment of time or money, something that you think that people could do. We could talk about climate change, and since climate change, a lot of climate change is because of deforestation, then have some, make a suggestion that a person could, plant a tree in one's yard, and remember to keep it third person, one's yard. Okay, so once you polish your essay up to be the best that it can possibly be, submit it to Smart Thinking to get their feedback, come to the English Studio to get their feedback, get your mom, your sister, a good friend to read it and get their feedback. And once you've polished it up as well as you possibly can, here is the link to submit it. Again, there are a few more inquisitives that are due by the 21st. So if you have any trouble with this, any problems, any questions, please contact me, and I'll see you next week to talk about the final exam.